we on Todd for G66. Welcome to another Tuesday Tone Tip. On today's video, we're on the Axe 3. I have the latest firmware featuring the Cygnus X3 modeling. And I want to take a look at the Euro Blue and Euro Red models. These are based off the iconic Bogner Ecstacy amplifier, one of the most sought after high gain boutique amps. It does more than high gain as well. It can do some great lower gain Marshall style tones. It can get super thick and saturated, and the Ecstacy has been used by so many great players over the years. Two that come to mind immediately are Steve Lukather, and Steve Vai used an Ecstacy in the early 90s before going over to Carbon with his signature amp. So let's have a play around with this and get it dialed in. I've got the Euro Blue set up at the moment at the stock settings. I'm using my free LTTV Mix 7 cab IR. It's linked in the video description. Low cut at 80 Hz, high cut at 8K, and then I have a little bit of the gold plate reverb over here. If you're playing along on an FM3, try the London plate at these settings. It will sound fantastic as well. What I've done here is I've set up a little loop of some rhythm guitar that I'm going to play in here. You'll hear this at the start will sound pretty dark. What I'm going to do to offset that is I'm going to turn the depth down, and then I'm going to first play around with the treble control and then the presence control. In general, on Bogners, you have to crank these up. They have a different taper to a typical Marshall style control. So that's kind of nice if you start with everything at noon, because you can get just the right amount of bite from the treble and brightness from the presence. Let's do it. I don't mind that as a starting point at all. What I'm going to do now is just play some lead guitar on here, and what I might adjust is the bright control on there, just to give me a little bit of extra snap and some gain at these settings. Essentially, when I've got the bright switch on, as I turn down this gain control, I'm going to get less distortion, but I'm also going to get more high frequency content in there. As I turn the gain up, the effect of the bright control is going to be less apparent, but at these kind of settings around, say, 4 to 6, I quite like it with the bright on. I'm also going to take the master volume up a little bit. I think this is one of the few high gain models in the Axe FX where having the master up above 3 or 4 and taking it to 5 or 6 really helps bring the amp to life. So let's just start with this at 5 over here. I'm going to play around with the gain and the brightness now. Overall, it's very Marshall-y. It feels really good to play, and to me, putting this against, say, a JCM 800 model that you've dialed in for similar settings is going to be a little bit more forgiving. It's a little bit squishier, and I really like where the bass and mids are at the default settings. If you're playing a Strat, maybe you want to crank those up a bit and back off the presence, but I really like the way this sounds at the moment with a bit of dual delay on there and a bit of a mid-style boost from a filter. You get a great lead sound on this. Check this out. It's simultaneously really thick, saturated, and compressed feeling under the fingers, but super clear sounding on there. You saw there that I actually had to check that my neck humbucker wasn't set on the single coil mode there. I love that openness and clarity that the Blue model has. So in conclusion, basically, don't be afraid to crank up the treble, presence, and master on this. I really like it with the bright switch on. If you're playing a guitar with single coils, you may prefer it with the bright switch off and a bit more bass and mid-range in there. Use your ears and dial it into taste as always. What I'm going to do next is I'm just going to go over to scene 2 where I've got the Euro Red model dialed in. Pretty similarly, you can see that I backed the depth off from the stock settings. Treble and presence I've cranked up. Bright switch is on. There's no boost on this. This is just a great, thick, modded Marshall style sound. Modern modes for the Euro Blue and Euro Red. I just like the standard modes on there, and you could hear even without a boost on there, the Euro Red has so much gain, saturation, and sustain on there. Perfect if you love greasy lead guitar. And overall, if you get into that habit of just cranking up the treble and presence, getting the master up a little higher than the default value, getting the bright and gain where you like them for the amount of bite, which I tend to like, or you want it a bit smoother, leave the bright off. That is totally straightforward on there. You have two amazing sounding models in there that are great for all styles of rock music. And I'm going to flick a little bit of pitch detune on this and play you all out with a greasy jam. If you enjoyed this video, let me know in the comments section below. Be sure to hit subscribe on the G66 channel so that you can grab a whole bunch of other fractal tips and tutorials. If you would like my free IR or some free blocks, they're linked in the video description, and I will see you all in next week's video. Cheers.